Hello, I'm Melissa Robinson.
Hello, Melissa.
Communications Director for Henry County Government.
I'm so excited.
And this is Henry Talks. And I think
this is going to be great.
The excitement is just too much for
I really can.
My colleague Thomas White. Hey, Thomas.
Hey, Melissa.
How are you?
How did you know I was excited?
I could just tell by you're interrupting me all the time.
Well, we have a judge on. I've never had a judge before, Melissa.
I know. This is
so it is my honor to turn it over to his honor, your honor. Introduce yourself.
Judge Mathias, Skowranek, Henry County Juvenile Court. Thank you very much for having me.
You are
That's
welcome.
why you introduce yourself, because I have no idea how to pronounce your name. So
thank you for being here. Thank you for taking
Skowranek.
Skowranek.
Okay. No. Skowranek.
Almost like you're gargling.
Oh, nope, that didn't work. Okay.
All right, so Judge, tell us a little bit, because you are relatively new as juvenile court judge.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how you came to become our judge. I mean, what you're doing there now.
So I started practicing in Henry County Juvenile Court as an attorney back in 1995.
Okay.
Did that for about 10 years, representing initially parents in dependency actions for if DFACs took children into custody, or if they had protective orders, you have the right to have an attorney represent you. So that's what we did.
Okay.
Then we also, before the Public Defender's Office started here, I would represent kids in delinquency cases, kids that are charged with criminal offenses that are under the age of 17. Mm-hmm. That stopped around 2000, I think it was, is when the Public Defender's Office started. And from about 2005 until last year, I was attorney for Henry County DFACs, did that, and I was also Walton County DFACs for about 9 months as well. Was appointed by Judge Amaro and the Superior Court judges to the bench, and I officially started when Judge Bartles retired on October 1st. Okay. So I've been on the bench now just a little over 6 months.
Okay.
I have an important question.
Yes.
Sure.
Which was harder, the LSAT or the bar exam?
You know, I'm going to say the bar exam.
Yeah.
Because it was 2 days worth of exams, where the LSAT was just a one-day thing.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
But yeah, my daughter is going to be doing that here relatively shortly. She's graduating here coming up in May.
Very
Judge,
good. Congratulations.
Be honest. How many times did you have to take the bar exam? No, I'm joking. Never mind. Keep going. I'm sorry,
anyway, Thomas. All right, Judge. So thank you for that. So you do have a really deep history in the juvenile court system and with families and children. So right now, when your work in the juvenile court system, like what are you seeing? What kinds of cases are you seeing?
So on the dependency side, where and this is even from when I was working for DFACs, you would see it as a lot of substance abuse cases, a lot of mental health involved cases, and even on the delinquency side, you're seeing that as well. Before we went on the air, we were talking a little bit about we have a juvenile court mental health program.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that. I definitely want to talk about that.
So you've got some of that on that side as well. On the delinquency side, it's anywhere from serious violent offenses to truancy to being runaway.
Okay.
Drive-by shooting,
everything.
So it really runs the gamut. A lot of batteries. Kids getting in fights at school.
Right.
Where when we were growing up, that might have been something that was handled internally in the school.
Right.
You had all the kind of zero tolerance things, and that all so that comes to Judge Brown. Battery for somebody who's punched somebody.
Right.
Sure.
And it seems like that's escalated from when we were younger. I'm probably a little older than you, but when we were younger, it was more handled by a principal or in school. But I guess there's just so much of that going on. All right, so now I have to say it. I wasn't going to say this, but Thomas was a juvenile delinquent at one time.
I was.
Because he used to steal people's kittens.
Well, okay, so there was an incident with a goat and an electric fence. I'm not going to go into it because I don't know what the statute of limitations are on goat kidnappings, but...
Yes, he loved animals and he would often take them home.
Yeah.
All right, so I do want to talk about, you just touched on it, the mental health court, juvenile court. Mental health is such a hot topic, meaning that it's getting more attention now, which it should have had. But I didn't realize that it was also in the juvenile court system. So can you tell me a little bit about that? I know you've had some successes.
So what happens is you get kids that will come in and they'll have whatever charge pending against them. It can be, criminal damage to property, any number of things that it can be. And so that the prosecuting attorneys and the judge and also the attorney for the child will look at it and say, this is potentially a case that can go into the mental health court system, where we'll just kind of pause what's going on the delinquency side and see if we can address, whatever underlying issues that they may have on the side with regards to the mental health court.
Okay.
It's usually 12 months. It's a 12-month program. We have counseling that's being provided to them. There'll be family therapy that's provided to them, those kinds of things. Because a lot of times what you'll find is it's not just the child, it's a family issue, or there may be family members that have, mental health needs as well. So you try to work to, see if you can get to the point where, they can successfully complete the program.
Sure.
I've been doing it for 6 months. I've had some cases that are just kind of plateaued, and I've had some where it's just, to see the change is just amazing.
I think this really shows the evolution of our criminal justice system,
Yeah,
how far it's
definitely.
gone.
Definitely.
I think we're dealing with more issues amongst juveniles than we ever have, but a lot of that is it's coming into focus as they're juveniles. It's not so much that there are more issues, but that they're coming more into focus and they're being addressed and dealt with, and maybe giving them a better path later in life.
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that you get to see that progression when you are able to reach these kids. And I know it's not just one or two people. You probably have a team that helps make this happen. Like you said, therapists and tell me a little bit about that process.
So yes, we have Ms. Manyata Tolbert and Pamela Bunn are sort of, and then Stephanie Polite are sort of the three individuals that kind of deal with what we call, it's called REACH Court.
Okay.
Don't ask me what REACH stands
That's
for because I
okay.
can't remember.
That's cool.
So they are the ones that will be, working with the kids, and we have probation officers that will go out, do drug screens, do home checks, do that kind of thing to see how things are progressing, meet with the kids in school, keep in touch with school counselors, school administrators,
That's great.
all of that kind of stuff. So they have, I want to say it's 5 phases that they're going through. I'm getting one that's graduating this month from that program. So it's a 12-month thing. Like I said, you go through each phase, and as they successfully progress through that, they'll move on to the next phase.
That's incredible. I mean, it's incredible because you change lives, really. I mean, you take a kid on one path, and then you can see them completely turn around, and they're a productive adult at some point. You don't get to see that part of it, as they get older. But I mean, it's a great feeling, probably for your staff. I'm glad you gave them a little shout out, so that's important.
Yeah, I have a wonderful team.
Good.
They work hard and they work really well together, and I'm very lucky to have all of them.
It's a concerted effort it just shows how our county government's departments complement each other. In Parks and Recreation, we have our Rec and Roll, our mobile rec unit, and we have mentorship programs where we try to take to the communities that may be most affected by crime, gang activity, drug activity, and we try to show that there's something else out there, that this way of life that you've known this entire time is not necessarily the only path.
Right.
Sounds like you guys are doing something very similar with more
Well,
intensive.
you're getting them before they
we're
get
getting
to
them
that
before you
point,
get
so.
there, but you guys have a very a therapeutic approach to it, and that's.
And that's what we're hoping to do. And before we went on the air, Tom and I were talking. There's a program in Atlanta with, like I said, I read about it, and I think it started in Texas. It's called Cafe Momentum, and it's basically staffed by kids who have learned to cook, to prep, to wait, to run a restaurant, all of that. That have had previous involvement with the juvenile justice system, which I thought that was just wonderful.
Great purpose,
Yeah.
That's, it reminds me, I'm not going away from the subject, but I am. I think in Japan, there's a restaurant this is true, that they hire people with Alzheimer's or dementia, and you go for the fact that you're going to get served the wrong thing, and it's a great success. And the servers love it. Have you heard of this before?
Yeah, I have.
I think it's so great. I think it's just so. I mean, with these kids, you're giving the sense of purpose. They learn a skill, learn how to do something, and giving of themselves to others. Like, in service to others can be different things to different people, but it's important. Awesome. So I think that's great. So if I want to know this. Dealing with juveniles, with kids, like it can, I'm sure, be very, not just frustrating, but it may tug a little bit. It can be hard sometimes dealing with them. So if you had to say your frustrations, if you have one, what's the more frustrating types of things that you're seeing?
It's just, and I can't really say it on the delinquency side, but sometimes you'll see it, like when I was representing parents, you would sometimes see the same families coming back.
Okay, sure.
And you try to provide services to them, and it just doesn't. And it's frustrating, but then again, that's a process because mental health, substance abuse. Judge Bartles used to say, like, how often parents that are addicted to drugs will relapse. I mean, it's very rare that you will have somebody that will just the first time get it.
Right.
I mean, it's a process. It's like I explain to the kids that come through the reach court, and I try to explain to the parents too. It's going to be a lot of times 2 steps forwards, 1 step back.
Right.
It's not going to be. It's going to be this sort of up and down, and you need to be prepared for that when you go into it.
Well, I think that's what recovery is. I think it's definitely.
I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it does.
But that,
sure it does.
It 100% is. I worked 4 years at a rehab center. There were so many people that would not just danger of relapse, because when they were in the center, of course, it's not around, but you would have people that would come back again, and they had relapse when they got out. But inside, you got so many people when they first get there, they're distrustful of the process. They just don't trust it. The government's trying to help me? What?
Right.
So they just don't trust the process, and you have to get over that mentality that can be ingrained in them for generations, and oftentimes for reasons that are good reasons that they feel that way. And so you have to figure out how to help them get past that. And unless they're willing to make the effort, it's hard to do it sometimes.
Yeah.
And as a judge too, I try not to step into that too, because I'm trying to leave that to the professionals. I mean, I know the law.
Right.
I don't know therapy. I don't know counseling.
And that's what's important. Yeah. So when I worked at the rehab, it was important when we saw things like this. We had to trust our therapist to be able to, like, we were there to provide the security, but we had to trust the therapist to actually get through to them. We provided structure. They provided that therapy. So it's a bunch of moving parts working together to create a goal, to reach a goal where people's lives are changed.
So it seems like, for your vast experience from 95, I think you said you started, until now we're in 2025, have you seen in your career, in your various roles, that drugs have played a heightened part in a lot of the issues that our kids are facing?
I think you've seen, I think from 95 when I started doing it until now, it's always been there.
Okay.
The drugs have changed.
Right.
Back in the mid-90s, it was crack cocaine. And then it was methamphetamine. Now the new one is coming down the pipeline is fentanyl.
Oh, right.
So, they've been there. The drugs have changed, and I think the addictive nature of the drugs has changed too, especially with methamphetamine. You really saw. I'm not as up on fentanyl, but with methamphetamine, about the addictive nature of meth, it's just that's. I think what you see is that the drugs have become more. I guess I don't know, maybe tailored.
Right.
That you really want them and you need them, and so where. That's what I think you see is that the addictive nature of the drugs has changed.
Right.
Ironically, the person waiting in the sidelines for the next episode knows about that and is able to answer some questions for us.
Be good. Yeah, it'd be a good episode for that. So for people who don't know, I mean, oftentimes our residents or citizens don't know what our court system initially deals with on a daily, especially juvenile court, because there's a lot of you have to be very careful about not revealing certain things. But what would you want people to know about the juvenile court system in Henry County, about your work, or what you really want the message to be for them?
I think one of the things that when people come in is it's a lot of times it's a first-time experience for a lot of them, and for the kids, for the parents, and I'm try to make it so that they feel like they've been heard. Okay, so that no matter what side you're on, I have been sitting in each of those chairs. Mm-hmm. I've been sitting representing the state. I've been sitting there representing parents. I've represented the kids. So it's a change now. I'm sort of being the neutral, but I've always felt, and that I'm trying and I'm working on being sure to that they feel like they've been heard. You may not like what I rule or why I have ruled in a particular way, but at least you felt like you've been heard.
That's so important, and that really is so important.
It reminds me of something.
What's that, Thomas?
Here at Henry County Government, we have 2 guiding principles.
We do?
And this really seems to exemplify it, and it's Henry cares. Henry committed.
All right, that's our end of this show, but I think we can have you back and talk even more. I think it's very interesting, and you seem to be the right man for the job that you're in right now, so congratulations.
Thank you.
I know it's relatively new, and I hope you all the best. So we're off for now. Thanks for watching, listening, visiting Henry Talks, and we will see you next time.
Goodbye, Henry County.
Goodbye.